these are all the latest clips from the front lines. Let's begin with this one. This is from the 17th of April, and I'll go through them one by one until we reach today on the 22nd, 23rd. So this is, as I said, the most lethal. You had 14 Israelis that were injured because of this drone launched by Hezbollah. And I'm not going to play the music because of copyright and so on, but let's watch it nonetheless. Okay, you can see here where this is in Lebanon. Yeah, you can see the military vehicles here. So what the Israelis did basically is they went and set up shop here, and this is the live footage from the drone as it was striking the target. You can see it in green. And then the footage cuts out after it impacts. And what's interesting is that you have Israeli settlers who filmed this exact same drone that we saw from a first-person perspective, from a third-person perspective, right? And it's very interesting watching the same moment from different angles. Take a look. Yeah, so there are at least 14 Israelis that were wounded afterwards, and I think that there are definitely some casualties, but they're not releasing any of the information. So, you know, it's I mean, it's very badly done what the Israelis set up here, because you can tell something is going on. There's a truck, a military truck, there are military jeeps outside. It's not very well camouflaged, is it? So this next one is from the this is from the 19th, okay? You can see Hezbollah here targeting the Israelis with ATGMs, with anti-tank guided missiles. There are the Israelis in red. And this is now Hezbollah setting up the ATGM. Massive explosion. You can see it spinning. You can see it spinning, right, as it rockets off. And take a look again. Whoever is there is cooked. And I already told you before that this is, it's not the first time in history someone has done this, obviously, but it's become a tendency, a habit, a manner of procedure to use ATGMs for infantry, like in this example, for anything. For a jeep, I mean, it's overkill, right? It's overkill to use something like this for infantry, unless you have nothing else. But again, as the name implies, these are armor piercing. They're meant for, you know, armored personnel carriers, for tanks, for mechanized armored units. That's why they pack such a huge punch. You don't need that for someone who's just standing there. But Hezbollah they have so many of these things apparently, and they become very precise with them. And by the way, one more thing I wanted to say about the last video, just if you noticed the camera, this is from the drone itself, right? Just a quick note. This is not someone with a remote control standing there and guiding the thing. This is very, very precise. It never ever loses focus of the target, right? So I'm pointing this out to show you how far Hezbollah have come, not just with shooting down Israeli drones, as you'll see in a minute, but also using drones themselves, as they also call these kamikaze drones, the ones that blow up on impact. So that's also something worth noting. Now, here's another video. This is from the 19th. And they're targeting a radar site. Okay, and this is in Shebaa Farms, which is in Lebanon, it's occupied Lebanon. These are the sorts of installations that Hezbollah have been targeting for many months now. I mean, they started on October 8th, right? They jumped right into the fight as soon as it broke out. And it's important to understand the evolution of the Lebanese front, because it started out with these installations being hit. You can see there are towers set up, surveillance and observation outposts. They have radar equipment, they have cameras, they have other signals intelligence and electronic warfare equipment set up. And it's an entire front of Israeli outposts, right? The whole front is littered with them. And it's not only electronic warfare. You still, of course, have other forms of the Israeli army deployed there. But this is everything that the Israelis need in order to observe what's happening in Lebanon, even in Syria, right? It goes all the way up the coast. And when you destroy all of this equipment for the Israelis, you, figuratively speaking, you make them blind and deaf, okay? So you've reduced their operational capability significantly at this point, and there's nothing that they can really do about it. But after that, we have the aspect of Hezbollah firing missiles, Hezbollah shooting down drones, Hezbollah firing their own drones. And so this is the evolution of the front, right? It's not just, okay, let's fire at this radar dish, okay, or a satellite dish or radar installation. It's not only that, yes? Now, this is footage from today. Okay, I'll show you in a minute, but there's a story I just want to quickly brief you on from 11 hours ago. Hezbollah shot down another drone deployed by the Israelis. It's, again, this Hermes 450, okay? So that's one story. Now this one, I'll show you a clip of Hezbollah targeting the Israelis with missiles, okay? And tell me what you notice about this clip.
Why?
Do you hear the sound? It just goes boom, 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 over and over. And it's always the same sound. It's the sound of the missiles impacting. And what you notice from that is the Israelis aren't shooting down any of them. So again, not every explosion you hear is always the sound of the impact. It could also be a missile taking out the incoming missile, right? But in this case, you hear it's the same thud over and over and over. So that shows you that the Israelis are unable to contend with a lot of the armaments that Hezbollah are deploying on this front. That shows you they have reduced operational capability, they have reduced defenses, and we know that Hezbollah have been taking out a lot of these Iron Dome batteries in the last months. I know they took one out just this week, so that could account for this. But it's another indicator of weakness from the Israelis. The Iranian response with the salvo of 300 missiles and drones and the entire resistance joining in, this whole orchestra, that's one thing, right? And I'll talk about that again in a minute, but this is everyday stuff. What I just shown you is happening every single day. Every single day. And you never hear about this on CNN or BBC. It's like they act like this is not even happening. They don't even cover it. And what I find funny is that, you know, when someone is firing missiles at you every day and shooting down your drones and firing their own drones at you and doing all of these things and, you know, causing casualties, inflicting casualties on you, and you don't talk about it, it's very weird, right? You would think that the Israelis would be talking about what's happening to them, and of course they do amongst themselves. You see on Hebrew media they talk about Hezbollah a lot, but they talk about it a lot more in Hebrew than they do in English, and it indicates, you know, from an analyst point of view, it indicates to me that they are afraid, they're incapable, and they are so embarrassed by what is happening to them, by the losses that they are suffering, that they don't even bring it up. They can barely, contend with Gaza, never mind Lebanon and Yemen and so on. But for the scale of the front and the losses they are suffering, it's just bizarre they don't talk about it. Now, this is a video from yesterday, I believe. It's called Prophet Elias, and it was also released by the resistance, but this time in Palestine. So everything I've shown you up thus far was Hezbollah. This is from Qassam, from Hamas. When you see what the Qassam fighters have put together here, you really won't believe your eyes. What they have done essentially is they lured multiple groups of Israeli forces into a trap, and then they detonated an IED, causing a number of casualties among the Israeli occupation forces. And not only did they plan and execute this rather elaborate undertaking, but they also managed to film the whole thing through multiple angles. It's quite stunning. They inflicted 2 casualties on the Israelis. One of them was a female soldier. Remember that Israelis, all of them, men and women, have to join the occupation army. Right, so that's the shooting at the car, and then they got the bus to stop as well. Now they're hitting the Israeli soldiers. This is after 10 minutes. First response from the Israelis. Second group. Third group. Fourth. And then they got them. So you have a lot of these operations that have been carried out over the years where Hezbollah, especially Hezbollah, they would basically not trick the Israelis necessarily into getting blown up, but basically hijacking incoming vehicles, snatching people, taking hostages, and I'm just taking a look at the beginning of the clip. Well, you know what's interesting to me here. Elias is a Christian name, right? And they named this Operation El Nebi Elias, so basically the prophet Elias. And when I see this name as Hamas operation, it's basically their way of showing unity with Christians, right? So that's very interesting. It's not by accident that they chose this name. So that's worth noting as well, because the ignorance in the West is that, well, you know, Hamas or basically all the Arabs are Muslims, and they're only Muslims, and Hamas are Muslim extremists, and it's just complete rubbish, right? Both of those points are complete rubbish. There are not only Muslims among Arabs. This is just, you know, basically Western ignorance and Islamophobia, so they can then use that to paint all of Arab society as extremists. That's the underlying Islamophobia or xenophobia. And so again, that's why I'm pointing this out to you. It's not an accident that they chose this name. There's also belief in this prophet among Muslims, right? I think people forget, or I mean, not forget, they just don't know, as I said, in the West, they just don't know that you have, for example, Jesus is talked about a lot in the Quran, the Virgin Mary as well. There's an entire surah dedicated to her. So there's a lot of overlap between Christians and Muslims in belief as well. And that's something people in the West just don't even know. And no one bothers pointing it out in the media because they're ignorant themselves. And even if they knew this stuff, they wouldn't tell you because it doesn't serve their propaganda. So this is another video I've got for you. It's also from yesterday. We're going back to Hezbollah now. Okay, this is from the Lebanese front, but it's you'll see in the caption it says Northern Occupied Palestine. Again, when they say occupied Palestine, they mean, you know, Israel, right? So it's the same front. It doesn't change. So here again, using an ATGM for a house. You know, this is so typical of what I was saying earlier. No one fires an ATGM at a house, right? You use this for armored vehicles. But again, so this is a house where Israelis have gone and shoved a bunch of soldiers in and established camp. Why am I telling you? Because the Israelis, they want to talk about how, you know, there's such victims and oh my God, Hezbollah, they only target houses where you have civilians. Again, what is an Israeli civilian? If you're in the military, you can't be a civilian, and the law mandates that both men and women join the military. So this is number one. Number two, it's not Hezbollah's fault that the Israelis have appropriated somebody's house and used that as a front. Now, the Israelis always say that people in Gaza are acting or serving as human shields because they've gone and used a house, and that, you know, therefore they had to bomb the entire apartment block and kill 20 people, which is a lie. I mean, there's no proof for it. I've shown you multiple clips before. You can see on camera Israeli troops walking into a house, establishing a camp, a base, and then being struck. So there's video evidence, documented video evidence. Not even a drone. It's with a proper camera, right? The Israelis certainly can't say as much. So that wraps it up for the last 5 days. I think you'll find this catalog of videos quite impressive, because it's not only impressive from a military viewpoint, but as I say, from a journalistic viewpoint, for someone to go into the field and film this and to also edit it and collate all this information and, you know, render it digitally and also put all the maps together for it and explain everything that's going on. For me, this is quality journalism. It really is. Look at CNN, look at the BBC. What are these people doing to cover this front? They don't even speak about it, let alone go in the field and film this footage and then put it together. They do absolutely nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, the media department in Hezbollah and the media department in Hamas are doing proper journalism. Obviously, it also serves propaganda purposes. No one is denying that, but propaganda isn't always incorrect. I mean, this video is true. You can see it with your own eyes, right? No one is disputing the video. So these events are happening. They're being recorded. They're current, you know, happened today, yesterday, the day before, and they're relevant to the conflict, to the most important conflict on the face of the planet. And that to me is good journalism. I don't care who made it. If CNN filmed this and put this together, I would have told you CNN did a good job. But alas, they didn't. They did nothing. They did nothing. So you have to respect the effort that goes into filming this and explaining this. It is quite remarkable. Again, YouTube demonetized my channel because I'm not allowed to say naughty things about Israel. You know, telling the truth is forbidden. So if you are able to donate a few dollars on PayPal or on a monthly basis on Patreon, please consider doing it because it would really help me continue my journalism and support independent media. So I'd be very grateful. And the links are in the description and also in the chat. Thank you guys very much again for all your donations and all your kind comments. I appreciate it very much.